Hello, I'm Susan Elliott. Today we're going to be speaking with Eric Einhorn, the founder and general and artistic director of On-Site Opera. Eric's situation is different from most opera company managers in the sense that he doesn't have to worry about filling a large auditorium. On-Site has stage productions everywhere from soup kitchens to cemeteries, to botanical gardens, to any number of other places. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Susan.
Tell us a little bit about On-Site Opera and the start, and because you launched it in what, 2012?
Correct. Yeah.
And about how many operas have you done since then?
We've done about 16 shows since then, ranging from pre-existing work from all time periods to new commissions. And the real thrust behind the company is that we are a solely site-specific company. So that means we do things outside of a traditional theatrical setting, and we match the piece that we're producing, the story that we're telling, with a very specific place. I liken it a lot to film scouting, that you look for the location specified in the script to help create the world and immerse the audience as much as possible.
Tell me about the current offering, which is called To My
Distant Love.
To My Distant Love. Yes, tell me about that.
So when the pandemic began, like everybody else, we were trying to figure out what it meant to be a producer, and especially a site-specific producer, because shifting purely to a digital model didn't make as much sense for us, because what is the site? What's the tie to mission? And we work very hard to stay very close to that mission in everything that we do. And so we started to try and look at what it meant to be a site-specific company when we couldn't all get to the same site. So what were the sites available to us? And we began to riff on this idea of the audience location, wherever they are, as that site. And so I took a page from our immersive theater colleagues, and I ended up buying a ticket to a phone play several months ago. And it was me and an actress on the phone going through this sort of choose your own adventure sort of thing. And I started to think, well, could this have an analog in opera? And we started to put together a project. I've always been a great lover of An die ferne Geliebte, the Beethoven song cycle. I used to be a baritone, and I loved singing it. And in reviewing the text, I thought, this is incredible. This text speaks to right now the inability to be with the person that we love, something separating us. So it all seemed to come together pretty well and pretty quickly. We then commissioned a playwright named Monet Hurst Mendoza to create a framework for the presentation, a script that engaged the audience and the performer, and created these love letters that audience members got beforehand. And it created this real individualized interaction where the site could be wherever you wanted to take this call from your distant love.
Right. And you send out emails in advance and so forth.
Yes. As soon as you buy a ticket, you get your ticket confirmation, and that's followed quickly by the first letter, which begins, "My beloved, I can't wait to hear your voice again." And it goes on from there.
That's so cool. So fun.
Audiences have been reacting really well to it. And one of my favorite parts about it is that audience members have been responding in character to the love letters. So
Really?
we get these very wonderful and some very vulnerable responses from audience members who are just really excited by the possibility of being performed for live again. It's caught on so well that we're now working with a small company in Australia to reproduce the piece with their local artists, because Australia at the moment is in its second wave of the pandemic, and they are under extremely strict lockdown right now. So they're looking for ways to connect, just as we were several months ago. Every year around this time, they present a festival, and that's having to shift wildly like happened for all the summer festivals in the US. And so in trying to figure out what it means to go digital fully for their main festival, they are incorporating To My Distant Love as part of that.
Because opera companies are so vulnerable to this mess that we're in, is there any way that your model can be translated or adapted or to other companies?
I think certainly if you look at the microcosm of the phone opera, that's adaptable, that can be applied to a host of different sorts of productions. But in terms of the site-specific model in general, I think it absolutely is something that companies can take on board and use to their advantage. And now is the time for us all to be looking at what's possible, what's safe, what's responsible, and what's doable financially. We did Turn of the Screw at Wave Hill.
Oh, that was Britain. Okay, Britain. How big an entourage was that? In other words, in terms of the staff and the cast and so forth and so on.
So between the cast, the orchestra, production staff, our administrative staff, some of our board and our ushers, I'd say 30 to 40 people. And it's grown over the years. And what keeps On-Site Opera growing and ticking is absolutely our core staff. We have Piper Gunnarsson as our executive director, Chris Staub is our director of production, Pooja Saha is our development and operations associate, and Jeff McDonald is our music director.
Were you able to maintain your core staff through the pandemic?
We did get a PPP loan. The way our season had planned out before the pandemic, essentially our season was more or less over by February. We had done all of our big productions. We still had a couple of things. Of course, we had our annual gala in April, which we had to cancel. But all of our expenses were over. So we were in a relatively stable cash position going into the pandemic. And we had sold enough gala tickets already that through the generosity of those people, which were then converted to donations, and we launched a fundraising campaign on top of that, which met expectation wonderfully. It allowed us to really stay on track and stay afloat. And I'm so thankful to be able to say that through all of this, we have maintained all of our staff at full salaries. We have paid 100% of all artist contracts we've had to cancel. And we are on track to do that. We had done some very long-term contracting of several things that we are now having to reconsider and try and retool. But anything that we can't repurpose the artist for another project, all those contracts will be paid fully as well. So I'm just grateful to the staff and to the board and to all our supporters to be able to do that.
But all of the people that you use are union people, no?
No, we're a non-union company.
Oh, you are a non-union company.
Yeah, we try and pay union scale whenever we can.
Right. Yeah.
Our performers work under a non-union agreements. And we have 4 full-time staff members. And what's been great is that it really is a family, and it's all hands on deck to make whatever pivot necessary happen. So there's no, well, this isn't my department, I don't really handle this. We're all in each other's business. We're all making it happen because every show that we do follows a new rubric. To be site specific in a different location every time changes what we need to do every show. So we're all used to what I like to say, exploding the model every time to figure out the most effective way to do something. We've been very lucky to be able to do this as the representative of the form within the greater opera industry and become a resource for our colleagues. Companies are trying to balance the audience expectation of they want to consume a certain amount of opera a certain way. And so there's almost a one-to-one translation of our main stage shows to a digital format. where I struggle is in collective Zoom fatigue and collective screen fatigue, which is what pushed me to do To My Distant Love in the first place. I said, I want something where you don't have to be sitting at your computer to experience it. And so everything that we're developing now, even if there is video element to it, it's in a way that you don't have to be in your living room or even in your house. You can be out engaging with the world around you, maybe on a one-to-one basis, but still it's not within the confines of FaceTime or Zoom or YouTube or Facebook.
If Peter Gelb called you up and said, come into my office, I want to talk to you, what do you think? What would you say to him?
Full disclosure, I have to admit that I know him. I've worked at the Met for 15 years, so
That's right. I forgot about that. I'm sorry. Yeah, you worked there before you started all this. Yeah,
I did, and it's so. So I would love to go to Peter's office if he called me. You know, I think, you know, I would love to sit down with him, and just like I'd like to sit down with any general manager of a large institution right now to say, let's have a conversation about this. Let's look at the difficulty that you might be experiencing to bring people back into the Metropolitan Opera House or the War Memorial Opera House or whatever. And what are those other places you can go, other ways you can do it? And this comes up even in the consulting conversations I've had prior to this. It's the minute you start taking opera outside of the opera house, even the most adventurous producers start to put these things on non-traditional productions. We need to install this. We need all kinds of microphones and lights and this and that. We need all these things, and it'll be another $90,000 to build the infrastructure for this. And what they end up doing is they end up building theater spaces outside of the theater. Right. And I think one of the biggest, most successful parts of what Onsite's model is that it takes it out of the theater and it doesn't try to make it into a theater.
Right.
It deals with the space on its terms. And that for us, that's part of our venue selection process is we go in there and we look at acoustics, we look at sight lines, we look at all those things so that we can go in and install the piece in a way that you are truly immersed. And I think that's the kind of thinking that my colleagues, that I would encourage my colleagues to really embrace, and that your audience will go with you. There's a lot of conversation about, well, my audience wants or expects this. And I would argue that audiences are looking to you as the curator of that operatic experience to guide them, to tell them what is good, what is bad, what is an acceptable means of presentation. And if you do it at the same level as you produce within your opera house, I think audiences will completely follow you.
Two things. Tell me what some of your favorite sites have been. And then if there are things that we could say to people that might help them going forward.
So my favorite productions, I think my favorite production that we've done at Onsite has been our production of Amal and the Night Visitors, which we did 2 years in a row at the Holy Apostles Soup Kitchen in Chelsea. And the production was reconceived as a modern parable about homelessness and housing vulnerability and hunger. And it turns the piece on its head, and it recasts the three kings as homeless men seeking shelter in the soup kitchen. We worked with a group called Breaking Ground, which is New York's largest provider of supportive housing, to create a community chorus of amateur singers, most of whom have experienced housing vulnerability. And we had an incredible group of soloists and dancers, and our orchestra was amazing, and our production team. And just it was it was one of those lightning in a bottle moments when
Right.
we were just, again, staying true to mission, staying committed to storytelling and the immersive experience and the art, and staying true to that created something that reached and impacted a lot of people. So that remains a real high watermark for me as a director and for us as a company.
So, wise person, advice to your
Fair.
advice to your colleagues going forward.
Keep pushing what you think your audience can do, can attend, can consume, and also, and this is a little non-traditional for general directors and artistic directors right now. I would say slow down. We're all in such a rush, it seems, to put out as much as we can. And it would seem that some of that is reactionary and a desire to stay relevant or to prove relevance. But I would argue that quantity does not determine your relevance. I think if you take the time, and you don't have to put out 75, 150 short films about opera. Do the work that speaks to you as an artist, as a producer, as a company, that keeps your audiences engaged. Do it true to your mission. Do it true to yourselves artistically, whatever that means in terms of amount. And don't be scared if you see somebody else producing more than you and you think you need to somehow maintain that speed. We're all faking it, so it's okay.
Oh, that's great.